And welcome back to the INKquisition podcast, where we dive into the minds behind the craft, the chaos, and the creativity of the D&D and the TTRPG world. I am your host, your friendly neighbourhood tavern master, Geek Master Mike. And tonight, I have a special episode where I'm joined with Sasha, the founder of Slightly Reckless Games and the promotion of their brand new game, Night Shift Devil Division. Hi Sasha, how you been?
Yeah, mate, you alright?
Yeah, I'm not so bad. Have you been okay lately?
Yeah, as good as can be expected, to be honest. It's
Very busy.
It's a lot. Like, it's always the same when we do pre-launch on a campaign like this. So busy, spinning lots of plates and stuff like that.
Amazing, mate. So I'm just going to say thank you very much for joining us on the podcast.
No worries, thank you for having me.
For anyone who might not know you, who is Sasha and who are you in the TTRPG world?
It's a good question, really. Like, just a drop in the ocean at this point, I think. But I founded Slightly Reckless Games about 3 years ago now, and it stemmed from like me and my mates had always played TTRPGs and stuff for like going on a decade at that point, and we'd started branching out into other games and played some kind of like games based on popular IPs and stuff like that. And we played one. I ran a game. And I won't say what it was because I won't throw him under the bus, but it wasn't very good. And it just made me go like, this was quite a popular product. And I was like, you know, I'd always homebrewed my own stuff and that. So I was like, maybe I'll give it a go at like making my own stuff. And like, it was just a passion project, to be honest. Like a mate of mine, I run a video company with a guy called Dom. I'd written some stuff and he came round and we put some spreads together and posted it on Reddit, and people were like, oh, when can I buy it? And we were like, oh, maybe we should, release it. So we released Ronin on Kickstarter and it did really well. And then after that, it's just been going crazy, to be honest. Every release we put out does better, and people seem to really vibe with it. Yeah.
Brilliant. There's nothing like doing it yourself. Like, you
exactly,
know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want something done, it's better off doing it yourself.
Yeah,
like, you know.
yeah.
So you're doing really well, and the game looked absolutely awesome, might I say, like so. So I believe you've got 1 foot in Liverpool and you've got 1 foot in Tokyo.
Yeah, at the minute. So I'm back in Liverpool at the moment, obviously, because I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure when I'll be going back out to Tokyo, but I was out there working on a project for 3 months last year, and then I was out not long before that, the year before. I'm under NDA, so I can't speak about hardly any of it, but people have kind of speculated on what it might be and who I was meeting with and that kind of stuff. But obviously with the first game being based in Japan and kind of obviously inspired by Japanese culture and mythology and that kind of stuff, there was always kind of like a tenuous link with the first project, at least anyway. And it's weird, like after making Ronin, I was like, well, we're going to have Japanese stuff in it, so I need to make sure that the language is correct.
Of course.
So I started learning the language, and now I went back to university to do it. And
I was quite impressed when we first met, and we were talking about the game and the concept art and stuff. And I might have said something, or no, I showed you the tattoo books that I had, and you and Tom started talking in Japanese together. I was like, what the fuck? I was just like pure amazed by that. So you know what? Well done. I've got to say, like, that's amazing, mate.
Yeah.
So what first pulled you into the tabletop RPG world?
Funny you mentioned Tom. Actually, it was him.
Okay.
Basically, we were all kind of mates, and I'm going back like 15 years at this point. And it was just one evening. Tom was like, "Do you want to come round and play Dungeons and Dragons?" to me and my business partner Dom, and we were like, I didn't really know what it was, and thought it was like, is it like Warhammer or is it like a board game or what? And then literally, like, I can tell you everything that happened that first session. I remember it, as if it was a film or a TV show or something.
We've got plenty of time, mate. I'm sure I'll be delving into that.
So yeah, like instantly hooked. Like the creativity of it, the kind of like, it's one of the only mediums where you're only bound by what you can kind of imagine, as long as it's within the rules of the game. So we played a campaign with Tom for maybe 2 years, and then one of the other guys who's now part of the business, he DM'd a campaign that was like 5 years.
Okay.
And then I started DMing other games like Cyberpunk and stuff like that.
Sick.
Yeah, and then started making our own stuff. Everything started becoming homebrew and changing rules and stuff like that. It was just a natural progression from, playing D&D that
Mhm.
first time to 15 years later making games that,
It is.
that
It's
other
very
people might play for the first time,
Yeah, so it's very dangerous. I always say to people who get into D&D, like, you want to be careful, because once you play that game, you're not coming back out. So
That's
it
it,
is
yeah.
the first and final warning. Like, once you go in, you won't come out. So that it's really cool to hear that you're doing other stuff, not just Dungeons and Dragons, that you've ventured into other types of worlds, like especially what's going on here with very 90s-esque anime
Yeah,
type, shall I say, like Akira mixed in with a lot with Ghost in the Shell a little
yeah.
bit, like, and that type of stuff. What made you from going from playing to creating your own system?
So yeah, I touched on it a little bit before, but it was kind of a response to seeing and playing stuff that I didn't think was kind of good enough, basically. So I'd always homebrewed our own stuff, and I think like during COVID we were playing like 3 times a week because there was nothing else to do. And we weren't playing in person; we were playing online. But that was when I started really kind of like I'd make a world, and like I remember spending. I've still got it on a note, like a OneNote somewhere. It was like, it took me weeks and weeks of just writing and writing and writing.
With COVID, I think you're at the time.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And it wasn't until we started kind of playing and exploring these worlds and new mechanics, we were liking it. And then, as I say, the first project, I saw a book called Morkborg. I don't know if you know it.
I don't know.
It's a Swedish game that kind of spawned many other games, and it was kind of like, it's still a rule book and it's inspired by D&D and that kind of stuff, but it's more inspired by like old school role playing, so it's all gritty and dark, and but the way the book was laid out was completely different than I'd ever seen another book. And if you look at our books, it's kind of similar ethos, and like
I can see
sometimes it's a little bit hard to read, but it's kind of almost like an art project as much as it is a game. And that was kind of like what sparked the original ideas for Ronin in my head, and then we started putting stuff together and people liked it, and now here I am 3 years later.
After that you moved on to Berserk, am I right?
Berserker, yeah. So same game system, same kind of art design ethos, and then we did an expansion for Ronin, which obviously still follows the same kind of same through line, but with Night Shift Devil Division, it's a new system. It's an A4 book rather than an A5 book. A little bit more cleaner in the design, but still got that same kind of aesthetic that hopefully we're becoming known for, where it's hopefully looks cool.
It looks gorgeous, like I say. As we can see, we've got it in the screens here behind, and the artwork, the aesthetic of that 90s look, like it just looks amazing. For everyone who's listening and watching, what is Night Shift Devil Division?
So Night Shift Devil Division is a game based on another game called Draw Steel. Draw Steel, made by MCDM and Matt Colville, which was a response to some kind of qualms they had with D&D, say, but more of like they just wanted to kind of modernize a lot of the old D&D systems, but they made what I regard as one of the best tactical cinematic role-playing games. So even while it is a little bit crunchy in the rules and stuff, it's still like when you're kind of running combat in it, it feels really cinematic. Like you feel badass when you're doing stuff, and you're like,
not a lot of pausing for people. For the people who are waiting, they're not waiting that long.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, you're always doing damage. You're always kind of doing something interesting. And when we played it, and I had the idea for Night Shift Devil Division prior, but I didn't have I started like fiddling with my own system, and it was only after playing Draw Steel where I was like, this is it. This is what feels correct. The game itself is set in 90s Tokyo, and it's in a world where there are devils, which is kind of the broad taxonomy of the name for the monsters in the game, basically. And you work for a corporate entity in Tokyo, and you're dealing with those problems, basically.
Brilliant. So do you eradicate them? Do they die? Or do you set like Ghostbusters type thing? Do they end up in like a lock-based system or anything like that?
So there's a mirrored version of Tokyo called Under Tokyo in the game, which is kind of like similar to Stranger Things, like
different
upside
plane.
down, kind of like it's basically a mirror of Tokyo, the same
Right.
locations, but if anyone's seen like Demon City, Shinjuku, kind of similar to
Mhm.
that. In terms of dealing with the devils, that's kind of up to you as the players, but
Awesome.
obviously sometimes there'll be situations where you want to destroy or kill a devil, but if you
Or let them out.
yeah, or if you decide that you want to do something called detaining, you can kind of catch them and keep them in the basement, and you can use them to get new abilities for your character
Oh,
if you
that
want.
would definitely be me. That like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but obviously it's more difficult to capture something that
Of
is
course.
like a monster like that than it is to just deal with it.
Have you got different type of capture systems? Like, I take it some of them are immune to certain type stuff or whatever, or obviously,
So-
like you say, some of them are harder to capture.
Yeah, so we have a rating system that goes from D to S, which felt very like Japanese and
Oh, yeah.
90s. So obviously, if you've got an S rank devil, it's going to be like citywide level, natural disaster style threat.
Yeah.
But then you've got like a class D, which might be something just like a small goblin-esque transfigured human.
Very One Punch Man as well, like rated.
Yeah, but then obviously you don't want to catch the little ones, you want to catch the big ones for the good abilities, so it becomes this kind of this act of like, while you're in combat, you're like, do you reckon we can capture this? Or and it's like,
Amazing.
no, okay. But yeah, doing the world design and the kind of lore and stuff is always like one of my favorite things to do. As we spoke about before, I've been meeting with people in Japan, like big anime IPs, and so I've been kind of developing anime adjacent stuff for the past 2 years anyway, and it got to the point where I was like, let's just do our own thing while we're waiting on these deals and stuff like
Amazing.
that to come in. So
I take it they can be very patient. Or you're very patient. I take it they can take their time a lot.
Japanese businesses, when compared to like Western businesses, is slow, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. They just want to make sure everything's done correctly.
What made you go into Japan first? Was it having the TTRPGs, or did you fall in love with the place first, visit, and then like how did that all come together?
It's an interesting story actually. So I'd always been, kind of enamored by Japan, if you would, even from being like growing up. I think anyone who grew up in the 90s, kind of, Pokemon and the birth of like anime and Toonami and that kind of stuff. So always been interested in that kind of stuff, but I'd never been. And I'd saved up enough money to go, and was like, right, I'm gonna book my flight
On your
go.
own?
And yeah. But then the idea for Ronin started coming about, so I used all my Japan savings to get Ronin off the ground, pay artists, and kind of do all the work that comes before the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah.
And obviously it was a risk. I could have not happened, but
Which you've got to take.
luckily it did well, and I managed to get my savings back after the project, and I went like literally the October after the campaign, and
Sick.
I went, did all the kind of touristy stuff. But last year when I was out there, I went to like Miyamoto Musashi's birthplace. Miyamoto Musashi's like one of the most famous samurais of all time.
Wow, where's that?
It's in a place called Miyamoto in Miyamasaka.
Oh, okay.
And following on from that,
Osaka, sorry, in Osaka.
Miyamasaka.
Miyamasaka.
Not far from Osaka, actually. It's just
Okay.
a little bit west.
Because I know they're very, it's very original to the samurai land, isn't it? And they've got the temples there.
Yeah. So
I've not been yet, but God, man, I'm dying to go. I really am.
I do recommend it. Like Miyamoto is only a small village, and there was no tourists and that, but there was a kind of statues for Miyamoto Musashi, and there's a Budokan and a shrine and stuff like that. So I loved it.
Really interested more in this detainment thing. I'm like proper invested in it. Sounds fucking super awesome, like I said. So detainment being more harder, obviously, but more rewarding. Was that designed to force moral choices?
Not necessarily moral choices. So the concept of the game is you work for what's known as the Devil Division. So while you still get to make the choices in the game, you are working for a company that expects certain things from you. Obviously, player to player, how much they kind of take on in terms of the responsibility of the job is up to them, but we have a kind of pairing system of, it's called signature and clearance. So the better you do for the division, the better you are at your job, the more clearance you'll get.
Sick.
So the access to better equipment, lower levels in the vault, and signature is kind of how the devils see you. So if you've got higher signature, maybe you can go into Under Tokyo and get cursed items and kind of stuff on the black market and that kind of stuff. But obviously the higher your signature, the more that devils know about you, the more that you've got a target on your back.
Have you got a certain name for the GM?
The duty manager, yeah.
Okay,
DM
so
for short.
he is the boss of.
I mean, he'll play all the NPCs as per usual, but yeah, he'll take
He's the
on
boss
role.
of the Devil Division. I would take it as well. Like,
Yeah.
that sounds so fucking awesome. Like, you know. So the cinematic mode versus engagement system. How did you land that on a hybrid style?
So Draw Steel does something similar, but from our experiences playing it with the kind of cinematic, I can't remember what it's called in Draw Steel. Anyway, the kind of role play side of stuff was a little bit too gamey, and there was kind of like systems for negotiations. So we kind of tried to like strip some of that back and focus more on the skill challenges style of things. So when you're not in combat, there's kind of like different phases of the cinematic mode, if you would. You might go to a job where it's like an arcade somewhere in Japan, and you have to. There's a group of people that are kind of like all panicking and stuff. So before you get into like the combat and stuff, you'll have all these different things of like, so one player might be like, okay, I'm going to try and like tell all the people there's been a gas leak and tell them they need to evacuate, and you deal with the problem that way. And it's just a way of kind of like, you know, as the name suggests, breaking role playing down into cinematic kind of snippets and cuts. So you can kind of get to the action. Not that there isn't a focus on the role play, obviously, but you just kind of you don't have to go through the like, oh, we travel from here to there, or
like the unnecessary filler that most animes have.
But saying that, we do have filler stuff. So when you've kind of done either one or a few jobs, you do something which is called going on leave, and you'll probably go on leave as a group, and you'll have
a beach episode.
Exactly. Yeah, that is actually in the book. You can go to Okinawa
go away
if you can afford it.
That's amazing.
So we have kind of like a wealth system. You don't have to track like how much money, how much yen you've got, but you'll have like kind of how much wealth you have.
Yeah.
So if you've got enough to go to Okinawa, then right enough. But you might
so excited.
Might only be able to afford, you know, karaoke or, you know, sushi or something. But you'll still you'll use those moments for
karaoke.
Kind of,
Oh, don't get me fucking started. That would be fucking awesome.
But the idea behind that is to kind of give players a break between intense combat sessions, and you can use that to kind of develop relationships and character building and that kind of stuff, but also fill the kind of the work of doing that filler anime.
Knowing my friends who I play with, I know they're going to be more into that filler mode. Your sushi, your karaoke, your whatever, your beach, going to cinema, or something like that, comic book store, all that type of stuff. That sounds awesome.
The beauty of the game is that's for the players to decide, right? If they want to spend more time doing that, that's up to them.
So I'm getting really excited about this now. I want to know about the classes. I don't want not just obviously. Like, I'm sure there's different ones for different classes for different types of sorts of fighters. But do you have many classes? And just give us a few snippets of some of them, who they may be.
Yeah. So the way the class system is kind of broken up is into 5 categories. I've had a few people say, "Oh, is there only 5 classes?" And it's like, no, but it's different than a usual kind of class system for a game where you would have like 10 classes and they're what you pick. It's more of like having a broader set of sub classes that you pick from within a kind of group. So the first 2 kind of groups that I came up with, and this will all be in the book, but the kind of lore behind the game goes back to like the Meiji period in Japan, where there was these 2 competing schools of thought. So the game has a thing called Kagari, which, you know, if you're familiar with Japanese media, it's used in a lot of stuff, which is basically the name that we've given to like negative emotions and kind of stuff that it's almost like a spiritual magic-y energy that kind of sticks around. So in the Meiji period, they couldn't decide on who was dealing with that problem the best. So you had and I'm gonna have to remember this because I've only just changed the names. There's endokinetics and, or is it exokinetics and endogenics?
Okay.
That's right.
Like exomorph and endomorphs.
Basically, it's one school, the kind of imprint school, believed that you would have to like train the body, and kind of it was all about internal strength and kind of using that to craft into kind of abilities, and similar to Demon Slayer and kind of breathing techniques.
Yeah.
And then the other school was more projection based, so using kind of hand gestures and seals and pieces of paper and stuff like that. And that was how they kind of used their abilities, which is kind of the JJK, the Jujutsu Kaisen analog. They had a big fight created under Tokyo. Then we come to 90s Tokyo, and there's like three more kind of groups. So we've got hybrids, which are the division's experiments that they've kind of made human devil hybrids, which are bound to the division, but
your tieflings.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. But these are seen as almost disposable. So if you're playing as a hybrid, you've got to kind of make sure you're keeping in line, because if you step out of line, the division will be like, well, we'll cut you. So the hybrids cover like animals. If you've seen the artwork, one of them's got like a hypodermic needle for a head. Wow. So yeah, so there's kind of like a good mix. We've just got some artwork back for one guy who's got like a CRT TV for a head.
Amazing.
So it's kind of like
I've seen that one. I've seen another one is more like a centipede type demon.
Oh,
or
that's one of
like,
the devils, yeah.
The devils look absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
They really do. The artwork for it is something else.
Yeah.
It really is. Like, I'm so excited to see more of this game the more we talk about it. So Tokyo was a setting. Why is there a specific need for this story? Why Tokyo?
I think like when I was, obviously as I spoke before, the idea for the game came before the system, and it was originally 80s Tokyo, I think. And it was Dom, my business partner, and who does all like the layout and design stuff, who said, no, it should be 90s. And I was like, I'm an hour in, and then I started like thinking about it more, and you know, the bubble popped for Japan. I think it was in the late 80s, so yeah, it made sense for the setting to be, you know, especially when the energy's kind of coming from like sadness and grief, and at a time during Japan's, you know, struggle after its economic success, just felt like at the right time and place for this kind of corporate thing to exist. And like when you look at stuff from that era, obviously the art and design style from that era comes through on the artwork and stuff, but you know, things like the Matrix and that kind of thing are all very kind of, as you said before, Akira, Ghost in the Shell. They all kind of played a part in the inspiration. And obviously after going, I was like, the idea of kind of running combat in more enclosed office buildings, or you know, pachinko parlors or love hotels or whatever it might be, kind of tight alleyways seemed very interesting to me, rather than kind of like an open space where like a field or whatever you might run in something else.
Good for chasing, good for encounters.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to go back to it, like the Ghost in the Shell chase. Yeah, that aesthetic is gorgeous. So I can picture this game and them type of inspirations. Yeah, just feeding off each other, just looking absolutely beautiful. So again, I'm just expressing my excitement for this game. Should we go back a little bit into more of the past games as well? I'd like to learn a little bit more about Berserker as well, which I believe is your second TTRPG that you had come out, and it's very Nordic style. So you have been very Japanese influenced. What made you turn to more of the Viking-esque scene? I know it was more of a bit of a change, but it seems like a drastic change for everything that you're going for.
Yeah, so I think initially the first idea I had was for Berserker, but when I had the idea for Ronin, that was the one that kind of excited me more at the time. But one thing like I've learned from doing this for the past 3 years now is you kind of like immerse yourself so much in for Ronin, say, in like Japanese culture and kind of samurai stuff, and then the project time's like 16 to 18 months, so you're spending almost like 2 years in, be it Edo period Japan, say, that like by the time the game comes out, I'm sick of samurai. And I don't want to watch a samurai film. I don't want to see any Akira Kurosawa. So
fresh a breath of like
exactly. So I was like,
air, sorry, I was meant to say,
I'll pick up the Viking stuff and I'll go with that. And the same thing happened with that, where by the time the end of the 16 months, I'm like, I don't want to see any Viking stuff. I don't want to play God of War or anything like that.
It's a very hyper focused world, isn't it?
Exactly.
The D&D and the TTRPG world, it very much is, and I'm the same like that. I'll just hyper focus into D&D for a while, and then I'll go back into me. Well, I only go to the two, to be fair. Tavern, D&D, fantasy, then anime. I'm back and forth. It's very much a psychological game of tennis for me when it comes to that type of stuff. Like, but I totally get what you're saying there. Like, so they're all on your site, and if anyone should delve into any of this, first of all, what game would you say to get into first for anyone who's listening?
I mean, it depends on the person. Everyone's different, right? Like, there'll be some people. We have a very active Discord community, and people come in who've played Ronin and they love Ronin. People come in going, I'm really excited for Berserker, and we've had such a big influx of people who are all like, more than both games previous put together, I would say. Like, people are coming in going, like, they're asking me questions about the lore, kind of like similar to what you're asking about, or when can I play the game, or I've made this, I've made that, and like, we haven't even released yet. We haven't done the crowdfunding campaign, and people are already like going mad for it. So I mean, whatever kind of piques your interest.
So who have you got doing the funding for you, the crowdfunding?
So we're launching on BackerKit.
Yeah.
Our last few projects we'd done on Kickstarter, but we had a good relationship with BackerKit, so we made the switch to BackerKit, and the marketing's been going really well. We'll be running, I don't know the exact date, but it'll be running early May till early June, and
okay.
Hopefully, if you're on Instagram, you'll likely see an ad for it if you're interested in role-playing games.
I'm sure people will be putting a lot of crowdfunding, well, whatever they can do to get the game up and launched. When that happens and you do get the funds, when would you reckon the game will be launched?
So as I said before, it's usually around 16 to 18 months. We're well ahead of where we usually are on a project like this. Usually we're not so far into the kind of rules and game design, but we had a bit of a bigger gap between projects this time, so it meant I could get ahead of stuff. So in terms of like, we're hoping people will be able to play it by the end of the year through digital versions and text-only versions. Because of the nature of this game, we want to dedicate a big part of the project timeline to playtesting. So people in the Discord will be playtesting, anyone who backs it will have the chance to playtest it and give feedback. So because we just want to make sure the balance of the game is right. We want to make sure that nothing's too broken and that kind of thing. But
of course,
it's it'll probably be about 16 to 18 months before the physical products are available.
I literally can't wait, and I will help out as much as I can to
No
do
worries.
that. Like, in the near future, is there a chance where people can come and see you, get to talk to you? Have you got any expos that you're running soon or anything like that?
Yeah, so usually we generally like to go to a little more than we are this year, but it's with it being a busy year, and obviously there's stuff going on in America which putting us off going to America. But we'll be at UK Games Expo. That'll be the biggest one for us.
Amazing.
We've got a stall that's
when have you got that? What date is that?
That is the end of May. So we'll actually be there while the crowdfunding campaign is kind of coming to its end.
Brilliant.
So we'll be doing promo stuff for that, and yeah, like anyone who comes to those kind of things, come and chat to me and ask me questions and keep me busy.
Yeah, brilliant. All right. So when you come to designing a system, do you start with the mechanics first, or do you start with the story?
It depends on the game. I think usually in Night Shift Devil Division, for sure, the idea for the kind of world and sometimes how the game might play is in my head, but I kind of let it ruminate. As I say, it's dependent on the game itself. With Ronin, obviously it's built on Morkborg, and it was seeing and playing Morkborg that kind of sparked the idea for that. In terms of designing game elements, though, it's usually the world and stuff that comes first, because I feel like the
inspiration and the...
I always feel like the mechanics should... You're telling a story within the world, right? So the mechanics should be helping you tell that story, whether it be, you know, a crunchy mechanic or something light. But you always want to be propelling players and the GM towards telling the most exciting story they can in that world. So usually it's the world that comes first that informs the decisions that I make in terms of design.
Okay, so what's one mechanic in Delve Division that you're really proud of?
It's a tough question, because as when you're adapting any system, there's things that kind of stay core, and then there's things you can kind of bend and break across the board. The detainment system, obviously, I think is a big part of Devil Division, and kind of, especially when one of the classes is built around their class is only devil contracts, so they get access to a few devil contracts at the beginning, and then the class is always based on the contracts they make with devils.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the detainment is a big part of it. Because we've stripped back a lot from Draw Steel, the mechanics will still kind of feel the same, they'll just be simplified. I think for me, the on-leave stuff is a really... because it's so like core to anime. And I know some people don't like filler, they don't want to watch Piccolo learning how to drive and that, but...
I think there's a difference between watching and playing, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like, when we play games and stuff, we always end up in situations that are a bit mad, and like it goes from like, oh, we'll just go into this tavern to becoming like this crazy thing that ends up happening.
That's it.
So
like going into a tavern to play another TTRPG inside the game as well. That'd be awesome, you know. So what's been the most hardest part of balancing the gameplay versus the narrative freedom?
With a game like Night Shift Devil Division, because it's so anime inspired, there's not that many anime TTRPGs out there. There's a few. I think there's like one called Big Eyes Small Mouth. There's one called Kane. There's
not any that I know, to be fair, mate.
Yeah, but they're all very narrative focused, so they're not particularly crunchy in the rule set. And I knew when I started out with the idea that I wanted a crunchy rule set, with the last two games being rules light. I wanted to go more into like a crunchy world, especially as I mentioned before. Like, one of the first games I got into DMing was Cyberpunk 2020. Which is obviously a game from the 80s that's crunchy as hell. There's loads of rules. There's rules for everything. And I loved that, like, warts and all. Like, making the first two games, I think people thought, oh, the rules light people, but we're both rules light and crunchy. So for Night Shift Devil Division, I knew I wanted it to be crunchy, but it was, how do you make something crunchy that is still exciting and still feels like an anime? And then when I played Draw Steel, that was like clicked in my head, and I was like, this is it. This is what we got to use as the base for it.
I definitely think you're onto a cracker, because most of the people that are into TTRPGs, especially the D&D world and fantasy, they're usually into anime as well. They come hand in hand, to be fair. Like, so it's surprising that I think no one's ever put these two together, so we'll keep it very stunned. Yeah. But I think you're onto a winner, to be fair. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and like, it's never something that I kind of consider to... I mean, because it's a game, you always have to kind of consider that people will play it, but I never make something with the intent of like kind of cornering a market or an audience. Like, I always just come at it with the approach of like, I want to make something that I want to play, and if other people want to play it, that's a bonus. If they don't, I've got a cool game to play, so it's win-win.
That's such a win-win, to be fair. Like,
people seem to like
low
it,
risk, like, you know, like, but yeah, I think it's gonna pay off, like, to be fair, mate, if you ask me, because it just sounds so awesome. So how do you design tension, like that risk versus reward loop with triumphs?
So yeah, the game is built in a way that doesn't have to necessarily be combat. It can be, you can solve problems without combat, and if anything, you know, you kind of save yourself HP or stamina, as it's called in our game. With each kind of triumph, be it combat or non-combat, you'll generate more of your heroic resource, which is what powers your class and your abilities and stuff. So it becomes this kind of balancing act of, we'll do one more job, or we'll go contain one more. It's tough because you won't always know what the situation's going to be, so it's always going to be a risk of, are we biting off more than we can chew here?
Yeah, if you took one job more than you should have done before. So I take it there's is the rest points?
So yeah, on leave is your
On leave.
basically your
Okay.
long rest
Awesome.
equivalent. So when you go on leave, you get your XP, your health resets, all your abilities reset, and that kind of stuff. But when it's coming to like balancing how many combats do we do, you might be at a place where you go, all right, we've all got 4 triumphs, so we know the beginning of the next engagement, we're all going to start with 4 of our like adrenaline.
Yeah.
So
fatigue is also a big factor in this game as well.
But you might be running low on. You get what's called restorations, which are kind of like a short action that you can do during an engagement to gain some health back. But once those are gone, they're gone. So you kind of have to go, well, I've only got 3 restorations or 2 restorations, and someone else be like, well, I've got 0, and it's like, yeah, but we're gonna. And so you end up with these situations where it's like, do we risk it to go for another one because it will essentially be easier because we'll be more powerful?
Of course.
And if you bite off more than you can chew, you might.
Well, that's going to come to my next question. How is what you say the death saving roll? How's that going to go about?
So the way it works in our game is you have stamina. Let's say, for example, you've got 20 stamina. If you hit 0, you don't die. You go into like the dying state.
Yeah.
So you're bleeding, so doing actions and stuff will be harder. But you can carry on. It's not like D&D where you're down and you can't play. You can keep going for as long as...
Very anime.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. You can keep going for as long as you can. If you hit half, so if you go to -10, then you're dead and you're dead for good. So,
are there revivals, or when you're dead, are you dead?
So I always like messing with the idea of kind of how death is handled in TTRPGs. In Ronin, you can resurrect. You go to Yomi, you have to fight a boss, and if you win, you get to play your character again, which I always thought was cool. In Berserker, if you've done enough kind of cool stuff, the Valkyries can bring you back. Exactly, yeah. So I'm playing around with some stuff for Night Shift Devil Division. There is definitely a mechanic where you can choose to die and sacrifice yourself, and then your teammate, your squad, will get automatic passes to their roles for the next like 2 rounds, or I'm not sure the intricacies of it yet, but there will be. I've toyed with the idea of having a devil turn up sometimes that will come to collect the body, and then the other players, if they want to fight that devil, kind of like it's. You ever play The Sims where death shows up?
Oh yeah.
If you can kind of convince him not
Amazing.
to, then
I take it the Devil Division will have something for that, maybe some sort of a stem pack or...
Jesus, yeah. I mean, the Devil Division will likely want you to capture the death devil, but...
Yeah.
But yes, I'll come up with some fun stuff for dying.
I can't wait to hear it, my mate, honestly. So what's something people don't realise about making TTRPGs?
That's a tough question. Because there's a whole range of kind of creators out there. You've got the smallest indie creator. You go from the people who homebrew their own stuff that never gets seen, like shown to anyone else. It's just for their own kind of campaign. To like the people out there that are big, massive companies. As I said before, like at this point, it's only 10 to 20% of my time is actually spent designing the game. The rest is kind of doing all the boring businessy stuff, but as we take more people on, I can kind of put my focus more back on designing. But I think one thing that people don't realize is how accessible it is. We're only 3 years old, but we're kind of testament of that pathway from I made something cool, showed it to some people, they said I want to try that, we made it, and it did well. And obviously there's a lot of steps along that way, and it's not as easy as I've just made it sound. It is difficult if you want to not necessarily make a living, but if you want to...
But it's not off the table.
Yes.
It's very much possible if you've got your mind set towards something.
And we, if people want to make stuff, and we do have people make stuff for our games and stuff, we try to support them as much as possible. We'll provide them with fonts and colour schemes, and if they're in their Discord, they can ask me about like, how did I design, or the thought behind this or that, or how should I do this enemy or whatever. So it's something we try to encourage other people to do. I mean, I think like a lot of the people who play TTRPGs are generally creative people.
Mhm.
So it's just about kind of channeling your creativity into, I mean, making a character for D&D is creative, you know what I mean?
Of
You come up
course.
with a backstory and that kind of stuff. So
Yeah, yeah.
you're not doing anything kind of difficult. Obviously, if you're doing mechanics and stuff, that's something you need to get reps in with and kind of how a game works and stuff. But the creative side, I think people are probably closer than they think to being able to make stuff for TTRPGs.
So where do you see slightly reckless games in the next couple of years, my mate?
I don't know. People, you know, people asked after the first game, like, well, you know, what's next and where is it going? But we're growing, and we went from a team of 2 this year to a team of 5. Hopefully that will continue to grow, and we'll keep getting to make, you know, as our portfolio grows, the more games we make, the more people play our stuff. Hopefully we can make a reputation for ourselves as people who make cool, enjoyable games. And, you know, I'm not stopping anytime soon. I'm going to keep going. So
that's it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're in Japan, we're in the UK. I'm hoping to kind of marry those a little bit
Should
more.
change it to slightly ruthless games then.
Yeah.
And ruthlessly keep on fighting. That's what you're doing, and you're making amazing games, my mate. So good on you, and I really can't wait for the game to come out. So what kind of player is Devil Division perfect for?
Devil Division is perfect for anyone who wants to feel like a badass, really. When you get into playing the combat, and it's, I can sit here and say it's cool and you'll feel great as much as, but it's only when you play it will you go, oh, now I get it. So, like, we were playing a session of Draw Steel a couple of months ago, and there was a moment where someone punched a guy into the ceiling,
Okay.
and then a different player was like, oh, I've got this like ability where I can make that happen again, and he punched him into the ceiling again, and then whipped him across all these other enemies. They're all clanging into each other. He basically killed about 7 people in one turn, and they both combined, and it was amazing, and everyone was like, oh, you feel great.
So people can just jump in like that, like, instead of not waiting their turn, someone go, oh, I can just do something to help that.
Similar to reactions, there's triggered actions,
Yeah.
where there's a specific trigger. We've changed it a bit in our game, so we've gone a little bit more. We have what's called an interrupt and a reaction, so your triggered action will either happen before the trigger or after the trigger.
Okay.
Where in Draw Steel, it's not super clear. But yeah, you can react to someone doing something. There's abilities where you can go, actually, I'm going to jump in and have my turn here. It's not like D&D's initiative where everyone's kind of ordered. It's what's called Zipper initiative.
Okay.
So you figure out who's fastest, whether it's the enemy side or the player side. Once the players have gone, then it's, I say my go because I'm usually GMing. I go with my guy, you go with your guy, and you can decide, oh, I'd be best going first here, but then the next round it might be better that someone else goes first. So I go, I'll go first in the round, and then when it's the next turn, they're like, oh, do you want to go or I'll go? Yeah, I can do this, and then you can do that. So there's a lot more tactical planning around who's going when, even though the initiative's kind of already decided.
So with the interruptions, does that get the okay from the GM first, or?
Yeah, so the ability will, it might be triggered action when an ally takes damage. So when your mate takes damage, you go, oh, I've got a reaction for that. I'm gonna, hit him. Or
what I'm trying to say is, could that get knocked back by the GM as well?
Not necessarily. I mean, only if the GM had a trigger and action that might come before. But the way that monsters and the devils will be designed is they've all got kind of unique kits, and there's ways for running kind of small groups as one entity rather than 4 little entities. It's like one group is one entity, and they all share a health pool. So if you deal 10 damage, you might kill 2 of them.
Interesting.
And you get to go. So there might be a situation where you've got a guy over here and a guy over here, and you do enough damage that kills both of them. So you get to narrate in a way that goes, I'm over here, so I chop his head off. I'm going to pick his head up and I'm going to throw it at that guy, and it's going to kill that guy. And you get to kind of take the reins a little bit and describe how do you kill these 2 guys that otherwise you might be too far away to do.
Okay, so that's interesting. So how does the number system based on dice roll work? Is 20 the highest, or is...
So you use 2d10s, that's generally the roll, and then you'll add a specific ability.
Mhm.
Sometimes you'll have a skill that's applicable that'll give you an additional bonus, but the way it works is an 11 or lower is considered a tier 3.
Mhm.
Tier 2 would be 12 to 16, and then 17 plus is tier 3. So there's always 3 tiers of outcomes. Obviously, you crit, you can have natural 19s and 20s, but the range of outcomes is generally 3 tiers. And
Okay.
as I said before, if you, and it's very rare that you'll ever be in a situation where I'm just going to hit them. You'll always be doing something where I'm going to hit them, I'm going to move them, I'm going to do this, I'm going to gain this, it's always very intricate, interesting stuff that you'll be doing. You'll never just hit someone with a sword, but if you were, it might be a case of an 11 does 4 damage, 12 to 16 does 7 damage, and then a 17 plus does like 10, 20 damage or whatever. So you're always hitting the minimum. Even if you get an 11, you'll always do something. So you'll always feel active, you'll always feel like you're contributing. Even if you're on one of those nights where you just can't roll well, you'll still be contributing and chipping away at people's health and stuff, so you'll never feel kind of left out.
So there's always a full balance to the game, whether you're playing well or not. There's always going to be some interesting interactions that you'll be doing. That's very interesting, that, mate. So, okay, here's a very left hook question for you. If Devil Division was crossed into a D&D world, what class would your operatives be?
Yeah, so because the class system in Devil Division is so varied and different, it's a tough question. The kind of the projection school would probably be maybe warlocks, I guess. It's tough because
rogue, is there ninja based stuff?
There will
as
be
in roguey.
That'll be more in the breathing styles, which is kind of it's tough because Draw Steel, the game, is very inspired and similar to D&D, but in D&D where the wizards got all the interesting, or like can do all the mad stuff, the fighter in Draw Steel gets all the interesting, I can move this person,
Okay.
You become like a true tactician. It's not like D&D where if you play a fighter, that's kind of like the limit of your role.
Very 4th edition.
So I think the breathers would probably be fighters. Projection would probably be warlock. Hybrids, I guess maybe druids, but I mean that's a stretch. It's just because they look, you might play an animal or a TV or whatever.
Yeah. Or a TV.
there's a class group called Baseline, and that's people who have kind of no Kagari, so no kind of like spiritual.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so if you've seen JJK, kind of like a Maki or a Toji, that would probably maybe be a monk. And then the contractor, there isn't anything similar. The only thing I can think of similar to the contractor in D&D is if you play Baldur's Gate 3 and you take a level of each class for 20 levels, then that'd be similar because you can do a bit of everything. And
of course, amazing. That's very interesting. So what anime/game vibe would you compare Devil Division to?
So the gameplay is heavily inspired by modern anime, so Chainsaw Man, JJK, Demon Slayer, stuff like that. While the gameplay is kind of all inspired by these modern shonen-esque seinen animes, the art style and the layout and design is all inspired by old retro kind of OVA stuff from the 90s. So as we spoke about before, like Akira Ghost in the Shell, but like more obscure ones like Gunsmith Cats and Demon City Shinjuku and Cyber City 808, 0808. I
love that, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, there's loads. They're all on the BackerKit page. But it's kind of supposed to be like this perfect marriage of modern anime and retro anime, and hopefully
perfect mix.
Hopefully it comes together and makes it a pretty sick
if you
game.
Ask me, that's amazing, mate. Brilliant. Okay, so one of my favourite points of the night is the Tavern Quickfire rounds, mate. Are you ready?
Yeah.
We'll do this quite quick. 5 questions. Are you ready?
Let's do it, yeah.
On a roll over D20, what number defines you as a creator?
13.
13? Okay, quick one. Why?
It's my lucky number. I think I've got it tattooed there as well.
Let's join them together.
I was born on the 13th.
Okay, number 2. What weapon against the devil are you choosing?
Katana.
The katana.
Classic, yeah.
Number 3, Tokyo rooftop chase or underground train fight?
Oh, that's off. That's Rooftop Chase was my first instinct, so I'll go with
Okay.
that.
Number 4, detain or destroy. What's your instinct?
Destroy.
Okay, good man. Number 5, one TTRPG you'd play forever if you had the chance to pick.
Ooh. I mean, it's too obvious to pick one of my own. And like, I'll if I'm playing it forever, I'll see all the things that I could have done better. So it's better to play someone else's, I think. I'll go with Blade Runner.
Nice. And there is a TTRPG of Blade Runner, yeah?
Yeah.
Fuck, I must go and
It's
get
good.
that.
It's really good.
Yeah, I think it'll be amazing. Okay, that's a nice one for telling us that, maybe. That's very interesting. All right, so where can people find you and Night Shift Devil Division?
SlightlyRecklessGames.com. If you go on BackerKit and search Night Shift Devil Division or Slightly Reckless Games, will pop up.
The Games Expo.
Yeah, we'll be at the Games Expo, all over the place, yeah.
Yeah, boss. Okay. What's next? What should we be expecting from you, my mate?
I can't talk about it because I'm under NDA, but
Brilliant.
we'll have an announcement maybe end of this year, maybe early next
We'll
year.
look
But
forward
it's,
to that, my
a
mate.
big
Okay.
anime IP that I'm sure if you don't know it, then you probably don't watch anime. So
No, that's it. So I can just say from the bottom of my heart, mate, thank you for coming on the podcast so
No,
much.
thank you
It's
for
been
having me,
really
mate.
interesting listening about you, Slightly Reckless Games, Ronan, Berserker, and your exciting brand new game, Night Shift, the Devil Division. Look for it, people, because it's going to be fucking awesome. Thank you very much, mate.
cheers, mate. Nice
Cheers,
one.
mate. No
Thank
problem.
you.